canto, 30th chapter, text number 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namah Kamala Nabhaya. Namaha Kamala Maline. Namaha Kamala Padaya. Namaste Kamalekshana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Dear Lord, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you, because from your abdomen sprouts the lotus flower, the origin of all living entities. You are always decorated with a lotus garland, and your feet resemble the lotus flower with all its fragrance. Your eyes are also like the petals of a lotus flower. Therefore, we always offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The word Kamala Nabhaya indicates that Lord Vishnu is the origin of the material creation. From the abdomen of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, a lotus flower sprouts. Lord Brahma, the first creature of the universe, is born from this lotus flower, and subsequently, Lord Brahma creates the whole universe. The origin of all creation is therefore Lord Vishnu, and the origin of all the Vishnu tattvas is Lord Krishna. Consequently, Krishna is the origin of everything. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Quote, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Lord Krishna says, I am the origin of everything. Therefore, whatever we see emanates from him. This is also confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmad Asya Yataha. The absolute truth is he from whom everything emanates. Om Gana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandiham Sri Guru Sri Yatha Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Sa Avadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Shakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Brishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataribhishcha Kripasindhabheva Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We'll read the verse once more. The translation. Dear Lord, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you, because from your abdomen sprouts the lotus flower, the origin of all living entities. You are always decorated with a lotus garland, and your feet resemble the lotus flower with all its fragrance. Your eyes are also like the petals of a lotus flower. Therefore, we always offer our respectful obeisances unto you. So the prachetas are offering obeisances, namas, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the wonderful thing is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin of everything, and he is therefore the origin of all beautiful things. All beautiful and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So the Lord is not formless, although his form is inconceivable. The inconceivable form of the Lord is difficult for us to conceive of because he's inconceivable. How is it that universes can come from a personality that's incongruent with our conditioned mind? The Mayavad philosophy gives the idea that the Supreme must be formless because the very definition of form means that it is limited. If we have a form, then everything outside of that form is not part of that form. So therefore, the logical mind conjectures that therefore the origin of all form must be formless and is not restricted by a specific form. But this form of the Lord is transcendental. It is a transcendental form. I've given the example many times of a little bug underneath a rock in your garden. If you go out there, we'll see that there's many little birds. I'm just looking out the window now, and there's little insects. And there's a horrific, if you pick up the rock and the bird is there, then the insect's finished. So we have to get an idea of our very limited capacity to understand anything with logic and argument and speculative endeavor. The Bhagavatam encourages us to take another path, Sabda Brahman, spiritual sound vibration. Sound vibration coming from a dimension which is not limited by the three modes of material nature, not limited by conditioned existence, which is transcendental. It is above our experience in this existence in the material world. So it's very beautiful, this verse, Namaha Kamala Nabhaya. We offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the original lotus flower originated. Wow, what a description. We know that the child is born from the mother's umbilical cord through the abdomen. This is a reflection of the origin of all creation. The Lord is not small time, he's big time. So from his navel, a lotus flower sprouts. But this is the transcendental manifestation of the Garbhadakshay Vishnu. Oh, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, what is that? That is one of the Purusha avatars. There are different avatars. I think it was Ramai Maharaj the other day in one of the earlier slokas in this chapter, he was giving the class and explaining that so many different types of avatars are there. Manvantara avatars, real avatars, guna avatars, 6 in all, different avatars. So the Purusha avatars, the Garbhadakshay Vishnu, but Garbhadakshay Vishnu, he has his origin. What is his origin? It appears that there's no other origin. But we hear from Shastra that the Garbhadakshay Vishnu is coming from Karanadakshay Vishnu, from the causal ocean. Where is the causal ocean coming from? That is a small portion of the spiritual world, where the Lord enters into Yoga Nidra. So his nidra or sleep is not necessary. He doesn't need to go for a sleep, just like it's said in one other religious tradition that God created the earth in 6 days, and on the seventh he had a rest. He had to take a break because it's pretty hard work creating universes and so on. No, the Lord doesn't sleep in that way, but he enters into a yoga nidra, a mystic slumber, into that realm called the Mahatattva, and he there in his slumber, Shastra explains, so many universes are emanating from the poreholes of his transcendental body. Um, and he expands in that way. Now, we read just yesterday that the Lord doesn't need this manifestation. He is Atmarama, he is fully self-satisfied. But to facilitate the desires of his children, his living entities, his small parts and parcels, that is one aspect of the Supreme, that he is unlimited. And unlimited by definition means that you must have limited. If you're having all potencies, then the very definition of unlimited must be that there's something that's limited to have something unlimited. So the Supreme Lord is unlimited, and we, the living entities, not just the material body, but the living entity is a display of his limited potency. So in that sense, we are one with the Lord. We are very small, Anu, and the Lord is Vibhum. He is unlimited. And the extent of this unlimitedness is absolutely inconceivable for the tiny, going all the way back to the garden. The little bug or beetle or whatever is sitting under the rock. He cannot understand very much at all due to his conditioned existence. And we think, oh, but we're not like a little bug under a rock. But pretty much we are. We are just so infinitesimally small, and we think ourselves to be so great and significant. I think Srila Prabhupada once used the example. He was talking to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he said something like, yes, on this earth planet, there is one continent called America, and on a certain continent of America, and in America there's different states, and then there are different cities. And Tamal Krishna, he was playing with Tamal Krishna Maharaj in that way, and he says that and we are in one city, and in one part of that city, and then there's a temple, and Tamal Krishna, he's thinking he's very significant, but actually we're very insignificant. No offense at all to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, but we get the idea of sometimes we can think ourselves very significant. So all of this knowledge and understanding cannot be understood by our mental speculative powers, but we have to understand them from hearing from Shastra. That person who is tied, if your hands are tied, you cannot become untied by your own endeavors. You have to have someone who's untied to untie us. So that is the process. So we get these descriptions repeatedly, and they're offered by the great devotees of the Lord who have this perspective and who are experiencing. This is the amazing part also, that as we hear these pastimes, we hear great faith and offerings of glorification to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in different situations. And then what we hear is that the Lord appears to his devotees in different ways, at different times, in different circumstances. And that gap between the material and the spiritual is bridged. And there is the direct face-to-face interaction of the devotee with the Supreme Lord. And Srila Prabhupada did explain that to us, that if we can continue in this process, we will see the Lord directly face to face. So obviously we can't jump to that idea, but this is what we hear, and this is what Shastra explains, that we can gradually come to know the Lord like that. Bhagavad Gita gives us the beginning of the process, that all things should be seen in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rasoham apsakuntaya pravasmi sasi surya. I'm the light of the sun and the moon. I am the taste and water. I am the sacred syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the ability in man. So Krishna is saying that when we see a flower, then connected to Krishna. How else did this come about? We think it's come about by accident, by chance. Just like sometimes one of the most amazing creations is everything's amazing. A peacock. When we look at a peacock, isn't it amazing? No, we think, oh yeah, it's amazing. But go into it, pause for a little while, have a look at the peacock, and see how each plume of the fan tail is precisely it's navigated precisely so that each one folds into the next one, and the plumes create that pattern. And so you think, oh, there's a pattern, there's the plumes going across the peacock's feathers, but it's not feather, it's feathers. And each plume feather has to grow, and it has to go to the precise place so that it will be next to its neighbor, which is growing and coming up just to come round in that semicircle. And the colors have to be precise. And we think, oh, that's okay. That's a peacock. If we examine any species of life, we will find, just like we are embodied beings, and we'll see it in every part of the creation. Every part is very specifically manifested by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this knowledge is only available to the human beings. The other species of life, we don't have the capacity in those species to inquire into who am I? What is this world? How is it constructed? What is the purpose of it? Just like a dog. A dog's business is to run around, sniff, 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 sniff here and there, chase its tail. And there's no real conception of why the dog is doing what it's doing. It's driven by the uncontrolled senses, acts in that way, and the dog dies with no higher understanding, generally, unless you're a very special dog, like the dog of Shivananda Sen and Chaitanya Charitamrita. The dogs, all living entities, can be uplifted, certainly by the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his devotees, the love and care of the devotees. So here we have the manifestation of the beautiful personality of Godhead that the devotees are relishing more and more to hear about the glories of that beautiful Supreme Personality of Godhead and all his manifestations. And they're begging the Lord, please allow me to enter into your association, because by entering into your association, by hearing about you, and by glorifying you, then I'm experiencing a higher relish, a higher taste. Vishayavani vartante niraharashade hinarasavar jamrasopyasha param drishvana vartate. Srila Prabhupada again and again explains that the devotee is not simply, I think earlier, yes, a number of verses back in this chapter, that we are not just following a path of negation, but we are following the path of the higher taste obtained from connecting to the Supreme Lord. Instead of hearing about mundane activities, we're hearing about the beautiful activities, form, etc., of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And instead of just negating the senses, we are learning how to dovetail, to connect the senses with the beautiful objects of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the beautiful form of the Lord. We're smelling the incense offered to the Lord. I think it was, yes, I was listening to the Vaisheshika Prabhu last night in Govardhan and Vrindavan, and doing Bhagavatam reading there. And he was explaining just I'm sorry, my brain just dropped out. I went to a noise I just heard. He was explaining, what was he explaining? Interesting. He was explaining, sorry, I've lost my train. Very interesting how that happens. What was the point was we're trying to connect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And no, I was going to, he made a very nice point. Maybe it will come back to me. So where will we go with this? We will just go to, let's just go to a subject that I want to discuss today, and that mine just pulled between trying to remember those. Anyway, we'll just go to the subject that I was thinking. Moving back then into the previous texts, the Prachetas, the Lord was very pleased, and this is a beautiful point, that the Lord was extremely pleased in text 8 by the friendly relationship between the Prachetas. So this is a very significant aspect of the fame of the Prachetas, that the Lord was very happy and very pleased to see this friendly dealings between all the brothers of King Prachinabhati. And they were very friendly in their relationship. And in Bhagavad Gita, in the very last verse of the 11th chapter, 1155 of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says, this verse is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. In the purport, right at the beginning of the purport, he said, this is the very essence of Bhagavad Gita. And that verse is, what is that verse? I'm trying to remember what it mat karma krin mat paramo mad bhakta sangha varjita nirvaira sarvabhuteshu yasamameti pandava. So he says, my dear Arjuna, one who is engaged in my loving service, who is freed from the reactions of his past deeds, and is free from mental speculation, and is friendly to every living entity, certainly he comes to me. So Prabhupada's highlighting this verse as the very essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And I'm going to suggest that this is a key point. That very last one, it struck my mind a number of months back, that this, I'm trying to remember, see if we can just see. Yeah, Nirvira Sarvabhuteshu. Nirvira Sarvabhuteshu. He is not an enemy, Nirvira, no enemy, Sarvabhuteshu. So translated as friendly to every living entity. So the first part's easy to capture. You think, well, yes, one who engages in my pure devotional service, that's what we understand devotional service is all about, to serve Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Free from the reactions to his past deeds, freed from all material attachment like that, and free from all material attachment. And then what was the last? What was it? Sanghavarjita. Yeah, that's that part. When engages in my devotional service, free from past business, and from mental speculation. That was the other one. And we can understand that very easily too. Yes, we have to give up mental speculation and only hear from Shastra. You got that. And then Krishna throws in that last part, the Nirva Sarvishu Bhuteshu, Samam Iti Pandava. If he's friendly to every living entity, so it's such a key point. And then it's coming up here with the Pachetas, that they were friendly in their relationship. And we see this in different religious traditions. Again, the idea of universal brotherhood and to be friendly to your neighbor, as a Christian one, to love thy neighbor as thy very self. So it sounds very good. It's a nice idea, but it seems to stop at your neighbor. The Bhagavatam says that one thinks in terms of I and mine. So this concept of be good to your neighbor has to be expanded beyond just your neighbor, all about yourself. To give us another perspective on this, Sri Ishopanishad explains that we should only Ishavashamidam sarvam yat kincha jagat yam jagat. It explains that we should only accept those things that are set aside for ourselves as one's quota. And we think, oh yeah, I just accept what's set aside as our quota, knowing well to whom everything else belongs. Yes, the Supreme Lord. He owns everything. But again, the key to this is that we have certain things set aside as our quota. But guess what? Everyone else has their quota set aside. So this is the key. So knowing well that everything is only controlled by the Lord is giving a quota to everyone. Therefore, our consciousness of friendliness has to expand, not just to be friendly to our family, to be friendly then to our neighbors and forgive our neighbors for any difficulty. But that friendliness has to expand universally and beyond. Absolutely has to expand, because that is the mood of the Lord, and the devotees are trying to please the Lord by taking up this mood. Now, again, we think, oh, that's a nice idea. We can all be friendly. But spiritual life is 150% practical. We look after the cows because Krishna wants, but it's so practical. We look after the bulls because it's actually so practical. Everything is divine and it's absolutely practical. So this idea of being friendly to all living entities, what's the reason? What's the practical purpose of this? The practical purpose is that if we develop that consciousness, we will be God conscious, we will be Krishna conscious, and everything will work perfectly. And when we don't have that consciousness, what consciousness do we have? Greed, lust, material desire, conflict, struggle to dominate. That is the material existence. When that friendliness, and friendliness ultimately means love. It's that loving propensity. And nothing works. Nothing works properly when we don't follow the guidance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't make these arrangements just for the heck of it, so to speak. He does it so that there will be perfect harmony in every aspect of our existence. Therefore, he gives a system. Chaturvarnya Mayashri Shram Guna Karma Vibhagasa. I've created this system to keep balance in this material existence so that the living entities can be guided. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. And the Lord is creating all of that for the harmonious manifestation so that the living entities can, Krishna's children, they can fantasize in their dreamlike state, just like and Prabhupada used the example. He said, just like a mother and father make some facility for their child. The child sees the mother cooking. That used to be what happened. People do still cook. Anyway, they see the mother is cooking or the father is cooking, and they think, I want to cook. I want to cook. The child demands, I want to cook. The mother and father know that the child is only 5 or 6 or whatever age they may be, 3 or whatever. They don't have the capacity yet to do this. So, but what the mother or father might do is they get a little toy stove and get little pots. You've seen this, you've heard about it, I'm sure. And they make a facility where the child thinks that they are doing everything. Hmm? And to try to facilitate that, at least for some time. Uh, so this is the Lord's creation for the living entity to facilitate the idea, which is natural because of the independence that we have. We want to imitate our Father and do what He is doing. And when it's necessary, the living entity is able to be in that environment. But when he realizes or she realizes, the living entity realizes that actually this is not great because there's another, we're shifting the analogy from the pots and the pans. There's another 7 billion in this planet. Just take this little tiny planet. There's another 7 billion, approximately, something like that, 6 or 7 or 8, like that. Other living entities all banging around, trying to lord it over the material nature. And that brings us to this other point. Another point I wanted to make was this idea of service. Our material disease is that we don't want to be servant, we want to be master. And play in and out of this analogy. So we want to be the master, and we think that by becoming the master, then we will be satisfied. But we're not satisfied by being the master. We will find that no matter how hard we try to be the master, just like a man, he marries and he thinks, I'll be the master of the house. How are you doing with that, boys? There's a struggle going on, and he thinks he's the master, but actually he's the servant. He has to serve his wife. He has to serve his children. He has to make so many facilities like that. And the mother is thinking she's the master. Maybe even of the husband, but that's more subtly, hopefully, done. But more externally manifest as the master of the children. The mother is in control like that. But she is actually a servant. She's serving her husband. She has to serve, and she's serving her children. She's serving so many things. So wherever we go, we'll find service. And the living entity, if examined carefully, can never be satisfied without service. That's his natural constitutional position. Try to separate sweetness from sugar, you don't have sugar. Try and separate heat from chili, you don't have chili. Try to separate service from the living entity, you don't have a living entity. We always have to serve. And if you don't have family and children and so on and so forth, you may be in a situation like that. We find, say, an old person will purchase one bird, a very simple example, a little canary or a budgie, used to call them. So you purchase that, and you think, I will be the master, and the little bird will do as I told, and I'll like that. I will control this situation. But when you look at what's going on, the only pleasure, the real pleasure, is when the bird is happy by our service. You put the cage there, and you buy a little bell, and the budgie doink, doink, doink on the bell, and you have a mirror, and the bird's looking in the mirror, boink, boink, because they do a lot with their beak, and like that. And when the bird seems to be happy, and he's getting his food and his water and stuff, then the bird's happy. Guess what? The old man or the old lady or the little kid who has the budget is happy. My bird's happy. I'm serving it. So we're serving, in Prabhupada said, we're serving DOG, you get a dog, there's dogs everywhere, yes? And we think we're the master, but we're serving. You don't think you're serving? Yeah, I won't go into all the details of how you have to clean up after your dogs and so on and so forth. So service is the natural position of the living entity, and we have to learn how to transfer that service back to its proper master. And when we do that, then guess what? I just thought of something. Krishna, he likes to serve too. We think, again, puggled thinking, mad thinking. We think, oh yeah, he's the master. But actually, Krishna is so much wanting to be our servant, and he's serving us at every moment. He's the super soul within the heart. He's directing the wanderings of every living entity. Inconceivable potency that he possesses. Prasha Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate. Unlimited potencies he has to create everything, to manifest everything, to design everything, to give fragrance to everything, to give form, color, to give the receptacle, the eyeballs, the capacity to be able to see these manifestations. And they're all coming from Krishna. We were hearing that yesterday. The light of the sun and the moon, matter in itself has no light. There's no form or shape or color in matter. It's only by the divine light of the sun and the moon. And there's artificial, but all the light that you have, whether it's electric light, gas light, fire, whatever, wood from fire, it's coming from the sun and from the moon. It's coming from Sashi Shuryo. It is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we are being encouraged to put aside our mood of conflict, our mood of enmity, our mood of enviousness, and to develop friendliness. In Vrindavan, the six Goswamis were very popular, it said, both with the gentle and with the ruffians. Why? Because they were friendly, they were loving to all the living entities, the gentle, the brahmanas, and the persons who were interested in spiritual life, and even the ruffians. So much so that they were very popular, even with all the different types of people, because they experienced in those great personalities, just like our Srila Prabhupada. The experience, we hear the devotees sharing their realizations that when they were with Srila Prabhupada, they felt that they had found their real father. They felt sheltered, they felt cared for, they felt the love, the non-condemning mood of a pure soul who only had the best interest at heart for the living entities. So I'll just check on. Okay. So there's many points actually. And this in text 20, we heard the devotee acts on the Brahma Bhuta platform. And one of those aspects of the Brahma Bhuta, Sarvashu Bhuteshu. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, Na Soshati, Na Kanshati, Samaha Sarvashu Bhuteshu, Mad Bhaktim Lapate. Again, one is equally disposed to all living entities, equanimity. So, and then even we've been hearing too, it's such amazing chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that whether the Prachetas, whether one is a sannyasi or whether one is a grihasta, if we can, and we saw it reflected in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajans. He said that when he sees the beautiful Arctic ceremony going on, then he sees his house transformed into Vaikuntha. What a science, the science of Krishna consciousness, how to apply it according to time, place, circumstance, who we are, what level we're aspiring for, or not so much aspiring, but what level we're at, and gradually to see how to proceed in the process of developing our Krishna consciousness. So today's message that I'm suggesting that we take up that message that although so when we look at today's translation, I'll just read it once more. It's so beautiful. Dear Lord, the Prachetas are saying, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you, because from your abdomen sprouts the lotus flower, the origin of all living entities. You are always decorated with a lotus garland, and your feet resemble the lotus flower with all its fragrance. Your eyes are also like the petals of a lotus flower. Therefore, we always offer our respectful obeisances unto you. I was listening to a lecture of Radhika Raman Prabhu. If you've not checked him out, please do. He's very, very wonderful devotee and speaks so beautifully on Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was explaining how we pray in one seminar that he presented at Silicon Valley ISKCON. And he was saying that first we have to all namaste. So we offer obeisances. We're offering our respectful obeisances. So the Prachetas are offering their obeisances again and again to the Supreme Lord. And then they're intermingling the glorification of the Lord. And that's the second stage of praying to the Lord. First to offer obeisances, bowing down before the Lord, and then glorifying the Lord with choice prayers, and going on to appreciate that, and then asking the Lord for whatever it is that we have to, in our stage of consciousness, that we are approaching the Lord. And then as a whole seminar that you gave is very nice. We have to be prepared to how the Lord responds. Sometimes the Lord responds exactly how we would like him to. Other times he may not, and he may respond in a different way. He may say no sometimes, just like a parent. And how to develop the correct consciousness for all of these interactions. So instead of wasting our time chasing after the sense gratification, the limited, fleeting sense gratification of the material world, which we know ends in a miserable result. We know it again and again, but because there's nothing else on offer, generally that's what we do, thinking that by adjusting in different ways, we will somehow come to a phantasmagoric experience of eternal blissful existence, enjoying sense gratification. Doesn't happen. And finally, I'll just finish with just here in this chapter. It is explaining like that the Prachetas, they will enjoy in the material world. And we hear that that should not be our desire to approach the Lord just so as we can enjoy in the material world, but we not at all. But it's seen that great personalities were able to develop their consciousness, and we're not trying to imitate. We should never think like that, because we just don't have that capacity. We are born in Kali Yuga, Manda Samanda, Matayo, Manda Bhaga Upadrita. We are lazy, we're quarrelsome, we're misguided, we're unlucky, we're always disturbed in this age of Kali. Therefore, Harinama, 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 chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, following in the footsteps of the Goswami acharyas, but in the same way, just trying to understand how to apply these principles of devotional life in our ashram, and for most of us, vast majority is the Grihastha ashram, and how to develop that friendly between husband and wife, the friendliness between the parents and the children, the friendliness between the members of the various communities that we live in and interact in. And we use the word friendly and love synonymously. And so loving relationships, friendly would be a good start. And and we chant Hare Krishna. And I was listening to something else yesterday. So we have to chant Hare Krishna according strictly. I heard Prabhupada saying strictly according to the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that begins with Trinada Pi Sinichina Tarori Vasahishna Amani Namana Adina Kitaniya Sadari. We have to chant in a humble state of mind. And that chanting, I know that I can chant like that, but that's the chanting that's required. If we can capture that chanting somehow or other, that should be our prayer. That I cannot become a great person who can uh, imitate the activities of such personalities who are able to live in this world for millions of years, like Kardama Muni flying through the aerial with his aerial mansion, and these personalities are amazingly, inconceivably wonderful. But we are given this is our Yuga Dharma, is the chanting of Hare Krishna. And if we can somehow capture the mood that's given by our acharyas, by Srila Prabhupada, then we can make rapid progress to come to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm going to finish there. There's most likely many, many other points that could be discussed, but I finish there. And if anyone has any reflections, that might be you just something that we've discussed that may you may take forward today or something that's there. Please feel free to reflect it back, and it may broaden the different concepts.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. As usual, you have brought about the glories of the Lord, how Lord is described by the Prachetas, and how they are offering their obeisances, looking into the greatness of the Lord, as mentioned here. And we can see in uh, Canto 1 by the prayers of Kunti 1.8.22. The same thing. Nama Pankaja Navaya, Nava Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Nitraya, Namaste Pankaja Grini. So this is the same type of uh, prayers here the Prachitas are offering to the Lord, showing the greatness of the
That's
Lord.
such. Can I just pause you? That's such a great point that you've mentioned, because it brings up this whole idea of parampara. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, who had these prayers first? Obviously, it appears to be the Prachetas. So
Yeah.
Queen Kunti is giving her prayers, and it's the similar same prayers as the
Mm.
Prachetas, but it's not diminished in any way, because Queen Kunti's prayers are so heartfelt that we glorify her prayers, and so there's room for millions of more devotees giving prayers in a similar way through this system of parampara. It doesn't become a
Mm.
wall. Nice, it's a lovely point. Thanks, Prabhu. That's
Mm.
Please continue if you have any other.
Yeah, so those are the things glorifying the Lord, as explained so nicely, giving all the broad spectrum of the Lord, how to understand the Lord. As the impersonalists think the Lord is formless, but with all
Mm.
the examples and everything we can find, it's not formless. Its form is different, but it's not formless. So all these examples give us the clear idea the Lord superiority, Lord opulences, everything is all around. what we need to, and as you explained that what is the position of the living entity is just to serve the Lord, because his natural potential, uh, natural tendency is to serve. So
Yes.
serving the Lord, who is the Lord? Lord is Krishna. So serving the Supreme is the natural tendency of the living entity. And how this can happen, you explained it so nicely with so many examples. There's really, if we look at the opulences of the Lord, as you give an example of the peacock's plumes, is so
Mhm.
nice and so important, so appropriate example, so beautiful. With the single sight of that plumes, we can understand how the Lord is great, His creation. Everything is so magnanimous. So these are the glorification we can see from this text, how the Prachitas are glorifying the Lord. Yeah, that's the whole text of
Yeah.
this text
And
25. It's
we,
lot to express.
Guy, thank you very much
Hare Krishna.
for your nice reflection. Is there, if there's anybody else, please feel free.
Hare Krishna
We have a
Prabhu,
minute or two.
there is one question on the chat forum. So shall I read it out? It's from Nandavaja Prabhu. He's tell, yeah,
From
he is
Nanda Braj
telling
Prabhu, yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful class. In the world of so much misinformation, how can develop staunch faith in Shastra? That is his question, Prabhu.
Wow. Can you read it again? Just
Yeah, surely, Prabhu.
that
Uh,
last part.
in the world of so much misinformation, how can develop staunch faith in Shastra?
Interesting question, isn't it? I'm reminded of I was listening to Swami Bhagavan Keshava Swami, who I listened to quite a lot, and he was being asked um, similar kind of questions. Um, it was a lecture he was giving on faith and doubt. So there are so many doubts that can come up, and this is like a doubt. And once, how can I have faith in Shastra with so much misinformation that can come through. Um, so I can guide you to listen to the Maharaji's explanation. He gives wonderful answers to such questions. Um, I, I can only give you little bits of an answer, Prabhu. Certainly, Srila Prabhupada's books are so important. I was listening to Srila Prabhupada just yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, and he was making the point how when we hear Bhagavad Gita, we shouldn't think that we're not hearing from Krishna. When we hear the Bhagavad Gita as it is, then we are hearing Krishna directly. You shouldn't think that we cannot hear from Krishna directly. The whole idea of the acharyas and guru parampara is to allow that transparent via media to come through directly so that you get that connection with Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Shastra then, I would practically want, ask Nanda Braj if it is a specific misinformation because there's so many aspects of it. But people would say, make sure you get a physical copy of Prabhupada's books. So that if you've got a physical copy, because this digital world that we're living in, it's so ephemeral. It can be there and it's great. We're talking on this amazing platform of technology. We're able to do so many wonderful things. So Prabhupada was not an enemy of such technology. But at the same time, it is very, very precarious. It's very, because it's subtle in many ways, and it can be gone in a moment, just like bank accounts. I'm sorry, I'm diverging in some way, but just like money. They want to make it, it's gone from things of value like gold and silver to pieces of paper and plastic, and we think that's bad enough. But that is becoming digitalized, and whatever power may decide to devalue your money, it's devalued, and so on and so forth. So, in a similar way, yeah, I won't get into too many quote unquote conspiracy type things, but it can be removed, all this information. So get yourself, I don't know if that's kind of where Nadabraj Prabhu is heading, but we certainly can keep connection by getting solid copies of Srila Prabhupada's books. So I don't know, yeah, please apology for the answer. I hope it kind of, I'm sure Nandabraj would give a good answer. He knows the answer to that, I'm sure. So I think we will finish there unless there's anything else. Okay. Thank you very much for your association, and we will end there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam.
Jai.
Jai.
Yes.
Kalpadabhyascha kripa
Vanchakalpadurvascha
sindhubhyeva
Patitanam
patitanam
Pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo namo namaha.
Hariyo Namo
Ananta Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai
Prabhu
Sila
ki
Prabhu
jai.
ki
Divine
jai.
Grace AC
Prabhupada ki
Bhaktivedanta
Swami Prabhupada
jai.
ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
All glories to the assembled
Assembled
devotees.
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna.